I walked into my job interview that morning unaware that the ex-wife I'd lost 3 years ago was now the CEO sitting on the other side of that desk. And the moment she looked up, what happened next changed everything. My name is Caleb Monroe, 38 years old, a once successful engineer who lost his firm, his faith, and his family, now gripping a taped-together steering wheel in a parking garage, praying for one open door. I had rehearsed every answer for that job interview. I knew the company cold, but the one thing I never prepared for was the CEO walking through that door in charcoal gray, and it was her, Adeline, the wife I'd pushed away, the woman I'd told, "You deserve better than me," the woman who had rebuilt her whole life into the very empire that now held my future in her hands. For 3 years we'd spoken only through careful text messages about our little girl. But now she was my 11 o'clock. Now she controlled whether I'd eat next month, and the look that crossed her face in that first frozen second told me she remembered everything too. So what does a broken man say to the wife he abandoned when she's suddenly the most powerful person in the room? Why was she still wearing the locket I gave her on our wedding day? And what was the secret our 6-year-old daughter had been praying for every single night? The prayer that was about to bring two cornerstones the world rejected crashing back together. Stay with me, because what happened in that conference room is something I'll spend the rest of my life on my knees thanking God for. I shot up from my chair so fast it screeched against the floor. The water glass trembled in my hand. "Addie," I breathed. She didn't move. She just stood in the doorway, tablet pressed to her chest like a shield. And I watched 3 years melt off her face in a single second. Shock, then something raw, then a wall slamming down behind her eyes. The wall of a woman who has fought too hard to let a ghost knock her over. "Your cornerstone," I said. The words came out stupid and small. "You're the CEO, I am." Her chin lifted. The same chin she'd lifted the night she told me she'd been waiting for me alone. "And you're my 11 o'clock." The whole city sparkled behind her through the glass. My one good tie suddenly felt like a noose. "I didn't know," I said fast. "I swear to you, Addie, I never knew the company name. I just saw the posting. If you want me to walk out that door right now, I'll go. I won't make this hard for you." And there it was, a flicker. Surprise. Maybe because the old Caleb would have made it about himself. Maybe because, for the first time in years, I'd put her first. She was quiet for a long, long moment. The air conditioner hummed. Somewhere below us, a whole company kept working, never knowing their boss had just come face to face with her past. Then she pulled out a chair, sat down, smoothed her skirt with hands that weren't quite steady, and folded them on the table like she was holding her whole self together with 10 fingers. "Sit down, Mr. Monroe," she said softly. "You came for an interview. Let's have an interview." So I sat, and she picked up her pen. And we began the strangest, most honest hour of my life. Two people who once shared a bed, now separated by a polished table, and a question neither of us was ready to answer. She asked the technical questions. I answered them. Load calculations, flood foundations, sustainable steel. This I could do. This I knew in my bones. And slowly, despite herself, I watched a grudging respect creep into her eyes, because she was a professional first, and the work was good. Then she set down the pen. She looked at me, really looked, and asked the question that wasn't on any list. "There's a 4-year gap in your career, Mr. Monroe." Her voice didn't waver. "Tell me what happened to you." But she already knew what had happened. She had lived every minute of it. I chose the truth. After 3 years of lies, I'd told myself I was done hiding. "I lost my firm," I said quietly. "And then I lost myself. I let my failure convince me I was a failure. And those are two different things, but back then I couldn't tell them apart." My voice cracked, but I didn't stop. I pushed away everyone who tried to love me because I'd decided I wasn't worth loving. I spent 2 years drowning, and then an old man in a church told me the stone the builders threw away becomes the cornerstone. I didn't believe him, but I came back the next week anyway. And slowly, so slowly, God put me back together. Not the same, better, humbler. And the best thing I rebuilt was being father our daughter doesn't have to worry about anymore. Adeline's wall cracked right down the middle. "I'm not telling you this to win the job," I said. "I'm telling you because you, of all the people on this earth, deserve to hear me say it out loud. I was a coward. I should have fought. For the firm, for myself, for us. I told you that you deserved better than me." I held her eyes. "I was wrong. You deserved a man who would stay. I'm sorry it took losing everything to become him." The room went silent. A single tear slid down her cheek. She wiped it away fast, almost angry at it for betraying her, and turned to the window so I couldn't see the rest. I prayed for you, Caleb, she whispered to the glass, every night, even after the divorce. I asked God to find you and bring you home to himself, even if it was never home to me. She turned back, eyes shining. I just never thought he'd answer it standing in my conference room. She didn't hire me that day. She said it was complicated, which was the smallest word for the biggest thing. But 3 days later, my phone rang. It was her, all business. You got this job because your work was the best I saw. I had 2 partners review your file with your name blacked out, and they reached the same conclusion. This is not about us. There is no us. This is about 90 families who lost everything in the Catawba flood and have nowhere to go. Can you work with me? Professionally, and only professionally. Yes, I said. I meant to keep that promise. I just hadn't counted on grace. The first time our little girl realized her mommy and daddy were working in the same building, she nearly floated off the ground. Mommy's office has daddy in it, she gasped. At the same time, and our 6-year-old, it turned out, had a plan of her own. One evening, dropping her off, Adeline's mother caught my arm, half laughing, half crying. You should hear what that child prays for every single night, Caleb. Same words. Dear God, please put my mommy and daddy back in the same house, because I think they still love each other. They're just being silly. I didn't sleep that night. The work threw us together more than either of us planned. Site visits, blueprints spread across tables. The old, easy rhythm sneaking back. The way she'd raise one eyebrow and I'd know exactly what she was thinking before she said a word. But there was a man in the way. His name was Spencer Vale, polished, rich. A board member with teeth that cost more than my car, who'd been chasing Adeline for a year with expensive dinners and all the right charities. And Spencer hated the Haven Project. 90 affordable homes on prime riverfront land, he said in a board meeting, smiling like a knife. Adeline, be reasonable. Cut it to 30. Sell the rest as luxury condos. Triple your money. Sentiment is not a business model. I watched her hesitate. I watched the weight of the whole board press down on her shoulders. And before I could stop myself, I spoke. Those 90 families aren't sentiment, Mr. Vale. They're people who watched a flood take everything. The cheapest thing in the world is a building that turns its back on the people who need it most. I looked straight at her. Your company is named Cornerstone. There's a verse behind that name. I think you remember it better than I do. Spencer's smile vanished. And who exactly are you? He's the best engineer in this building, Adeline said quietly. And he's right. The project stayed at 90 homes. Spencer walked out without another word. And I knew, the second the door clicked shut, that I'd just made an enemy with the power to bury me. But none of us were watching the sky, because 2 weeks before our first inspection, a storm was already turning slowly over the mountains, the same kind of storm that had drowned these families once before. And it was coming straight for everything we'd built. The storm hit at midnight, and it didn't stop. 36 hours of rain hammered the Catawba until the river swelled black and hungry, climbing toward the foundations we'd poured. If our flood walls failed, the project was finished. The board would have its excuse, and 90 families would lose hope a second time. The cruelest loss of all. At 2 in the morning, I couldn't lie still another second. I'd designed those foundations. I had to know. So I drove through the blinding rain, wipers useless, heart pounding. And when my headlights swept the site, they landed on a figure already standing in the flood. A yellow raincoat, soaked to the bone. Adeline. Caleb, she shouted over the roar. What are you doing here? Same thing as you, I yelled back. I couldn't sleep, I had to see. So we worked. The 2 of us. Alone in the dark, in the freezing water. Ankle deep, then knee deep, clawing open the drainage channels I'd drawn, dragging sandbags until my arms screamed and then dragging more. The rain stung like needles. The mud sucked at our feet. Once she slipped, and I caught her, and for one heartbeat we just held on, breathing hard. The storm screaming around us, and then we let go and kept fighting, because the families needed us more than we needed that moment. And at dawn the rain stopped. The sun cracked over the river like a promise. The water rose to within inches of the slabs, and then it stopped, and then it pulled back. Every channel I'd designed had done its job. The foundations held. We collapsed onto the tailgate of my taped-together truck, drenched, shaking, half-frozen, and we laughed. The helpless, crying, giddy laughter of 2 people who just watched a prayer turn into concrete and steel. Then she stopped laughing. She looked at me, mascara running, hair plastered to her face, and I swear she had never been more beautiful in all my life. "You came," she whispered, "in the middle of the night, in a flood. Nobody asked you to. You just came." "I'll always come now, Addie." My throat closed. "That's the whole difference. That's the man I should have been the first time. I stopped running." The river glittered. And then she said the words I'd been too afraid to hope for. "I never stopped loving you, Caleb. I tried. I was so angry, so hurt, but I never stopped." Her tears came freely now. "I just couldn't survive loving a man who had already given up on himself." "I'm not that man anymore," I said. "I can't promise perfect, but I can promise I'll fight, for you, for grace, every day God gives me. And when I fall, because I will, I'll let you help me up instead of pushing you away. I'd rather be broken beside you than whole without you." She reached over and took my cold, muddy hand in hers. "Then let's not build another house," she whispered, the same words from a lifetime ago. "Let's build a home, with God back in the foundation where he belongs." We didn't kiss, not then. We just sat on that tailgate as the sun climbed, holding hands, watching the water go down. Two cornerstones the world had thrown away, set back in place by the only builder who never gives up on his work. The rest came gently, and then all at once. Spencer Vale resigned that winter. When it became clear the Haven project would be Cornerstone's proudest moment, and Adeline's heart was never, ever for sale. We started over slow on purpose this time. Coffee, then dinner, then Sunday mornings with Grace squeezed between us in the same church pew, where a kind old man once handed a broken stranger a paper towel and a verse. He married us the second time, too. A small wedding, just family, in the spring. But that's not the moment I want to leave you with. It's the dedication day. 90 finished homes, gleaming in the sun. 90 families holding keys, some weeping, all of them home. I stood at that podium, the man who once decided he wasn't worth loving, with my wife beside me and our daughter on my hip, and I dedicated those homes with the only words that fit. "The stone the builders rejected," I said, my voice breaking, "has become the cornerstone. We didn't build these homes for the strong. We built them for the ones who lost everything. Because we know what it is to lose everything, and we know what it is to be found." And Grace tugged my sleeve and whispered, loud enough for the whole crowd to hear, "God answered my prayer, Daddy. You and Mommy are in the same house now." The whole crowd laughed and cried at once. I walked into a job interview that morning with nothing but a taped-up steering wheel and a desperate prayer for one open door. And God didn't open one door. He gave me back my whole house. So let me ask you something before you go. Think about it honestly. Is there someone in your life you stopped fighting for? Someone you walked away from because you decided you weren't enough? And what would happen? What would truly happen if you found the courage to walk back through that door tomorrow? Sit with that question tonight. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that it is never, ever too late for God to rebuild what you thought was broken forever, then subscribe right now and tap that notification bell so the next story like this one finds its way straight to you, because somebody you love needs to hear it too. I'll see you in the next one.